What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel, and it's time to give you my Week 10 New Year's Six Bowl projections heading into week number 10 of the 2023 college football season. Yesterday, I gave you my playoff projections. Now I'm going to give you my New Year's Six Bowl projections here for week number 10. I've only made one change here to my New Year's Six Bowls. Not a really lot to change from this past weekend. But, it's been a busy week. We had the playoff rankings that came out Tuesday. And then we, of course, gave you a reaction. If you have not seen my reaction to those playoff rankings, again, you can go back and watch that video if you have not seen it yet. But again, we're going to give you my New Year's Six Bowl projections. What we're mainly focusing on here is 4 out of the 6 New Year's Six Bowl games. Teams that have a really good opportunity to go to a New Year's Six Bowl. And then also, mainly the other the semifinal games and the playoff games are 2 other, New Year's Six Bowls. So we're mainly focusing on 4 out of the 6 New Year's Six Bowl games. And again, these are going to be just based off of how the teams have been playing this year and which teams have impressed me the most. But now we're going to be basing it off of what's going to happen for the rest of the year. So again, I'm going to give you my playoff projections from yesterday as well to include these New Year's Six Bowls. And again, the New Year's Six Bowls are different this year. I mean, there's, one bowl game that still remains the same, and that's the Orange Bowl. But again, the other New Year's Six Bowl games now are at large places, so any conference can play in those New Year's Six Bowls. But let's get right into it here. We'll start with my playoff projections from yesterday. So in the Rose Bowl, I do feel very confident that this matchup is going to happen as of right now. Florida State, I got them winning the ACC Championship, winning out and going 13-0 and getting in there as a number 3 seed. And then Michigan here, I got them winning the Big Ten Championship as of right now. I also got them beating Ohio State in the regular season matchup. If they slip up, what if Michigan loses to Penn State? And what if they both, lose to Ohio State and Michigan? Or actually Penn State. What happens from there for Michigan? Well, I think they still make it to a New Year's Six Bowl. We'll probably just put them on a New Year's Six Bowl here. If they ended up losing like 2 games at the end of the year, which I don't think they're going to probably lose, to Ohio State at home. But again, that's a big-time rival game. You never know what can happen. But as of right now from yesterday, I did say I'm going to pick Michigan for right now to win that matchup. But again, I feel very confident that this matchup is going to happen. Florida State has a good enough of a resume to make it to the playoff. And again, you look at Florida State's schedule, I don't really see them losing for the rest of the year. And like I said yesterday, the game against Miami is probably their toughest game left on the schedule. That's obviously going to be a rival game. You never know what can happen in that one. I think Michigan has a more tougher schedule than Florida State. Obviously Penn State on the schedule, on the road. You at least get Ohio State at home. That's the good news. But again, I'm picking Michigan to win that game for right now. And then Florida State, I got them winning out for the rest of the year. So again, this is my Rose Bowl matchup in the playoff semifinal, Michigan versus Florida State, the number 2 versus number 3 seed. And then in the other semifinal in the Sugar Bowl, I got Georgia versus Ohio State. So Georgia, same thing with, like Florida State, I have them winning out for the rest of the year, going to the SEC Championship. Either they play against Alabama or maybe LSU, maybe Ole Miss. Whether or not, I think they're going to be playing pretty much Alabama, probably LSU, but LSU versus Alabama is going to decide who Georgia will play. But no matter who they play in the SEC Championship, I'm still going to pick Georgia to win that game. And I also got them going 13-0 and possibly getting in there as a number 1 seed. Just depends on the resume. I think they're going to have a good enough resume anyway. And then Ohio State here, I got them getting in there as an 11-1 team. Now, I don't really see a Pac-12 team making it to the college football playoff. I just think, the resume of Ohio State is so much better. It depends on who plays in the Pac-12 championship. Maybe Washington and Oregon probably slip up somewhere. Maybe Washington could lose to USC tomorrow, and maybe, Oregon could probably lose one more game perhaps, and then we wouldn't be able to get a Pac-12 team in there. It depends if Washington gets in there as a one-loss team. But you got the Big 12, but I don't really think a Big 12 team is going to make it in just based off of the resume. And again, Ohio State has the best resume out of all these 4 teams. Like, they were ranked number 1 in the playoff rankings anyway, so that's the reason why they ranked them in the number 1 spot, is just because of the resume. Again, the resume is really perfect for Ohio State, to be a number 1 seed in the playoff. You got wins over Notre Dame and Penn State already. They have a really good chance to beat Michigan. That would be another boost on their resume. So Ohio State here in Georgia is the Sugar Bowl matchup here I had from yesterday. And I do feel very confident that we could probably see a rematch here from last year's semifinal. And again, Ohio State was the only team last year to really compete with Georgia. So this is what I had in my Sugar Bowl matchup. Those are my playoff games from yesterday. Let's now go into the regular New Year's Six Bowl games. 4 out of the 6 New Year's Six Bowl games, and we'll start here with the Cotton Bowl. I got Oklahoma and Oregon. I haven't made a change here. I think Oklahoma is going to probably maybe lose like one more game on their schedule. They got Oklahoma State coming up tomorrow afternoon, which I think it could be a likely loss for this Oklahoma team. They have struggled in the last couple of games. You look at UCF, they had a really big scare in that game, and then, of course, didn't survive against Kansas. So, yeah, Oklahoma dropped big in the playoff rankings, which I don't think they should have because they didn't really get beat that badly. I just think Oklahoma has been very inconsistent now in the last couple of weeks, and I just don't think that's going to get them enough into the Big 12 championship. But, again, that Big 12 conference is wide open. I mean, anybody can win the Big 12, let's be honest. I mean, Oklahoma State and Kansas State are getting better. So, I mean, Oklahoma could slip up somewhere. It could be that game again tomorrow night, tomorrow afternoon against Oklahoma State. If they get upset in that game, that means really that Oklahoma is not going to make it to the Big 12 championship and also the college football playoff. I did have Oklahoma go into the playoff, but just the way they've been playing the last couple weeks, it seems like it's not going to happen now. And then Oregon here, they've been very good in the last couple weeks ever since that Washington loss. They absolutely embarrassed Utah. And come to think of it, I think Oregon might be the favorite to win the Pac-12 just because, Washington's been inconsistent now in the last couple weeks. So I think Oregon could be my pick to win the Pac-12 championship. But again, we'll do some conference championship games, predictions, at the end of the year. And I might change my pick from there. But I do feel very confident that this matchup will happen here. I mean, I got Oklahoma and Oregon here in the Cotton Bowl, the Big 12 versus the Pac-12. Let's move on to the Fiesta Bowl. And here is Washington. Washington here still my Fiesta Bowl, but I got Tulane here this week. I had Air Force here last week, but based off of the playoff rankings, I think Tulane is going to be that highest group of 5 team that's going to get in, even with one loss to Ole Miss. They were very competitive, though, in that game, and I think the committee kind of reward them for that, game and everything. So I think that's the reason why Tulane was ahead of an undefeated Air Force team. And again, Washington's been very inconsistent now in the last couple of weeks. I think that's the reason why they got to number 5 in the rankings. So I think that's the reason why they dropped down, at number 5. And they would have been, consistent, throughout the course of the couple weeks. I think Washington probably would have been in that top 4. But, as of right now, I'm not going to pick Washington to go to the college football playoff. I mean, they do have a win over Oregon, but, they haven't really shown me anything that they are a playoff, team just yet. But we'll see what happens the rest of the way. They got a big game coming up tomorrow night against USC. Big game there in the Pac-12. That's the game that they probably could slip up in. But USC does not have a great defense. So, I mean, I do expect a shootout in that game tomorrow night. But, again, I made a change here in my Fiesta Bowl, Washington and Tulane. And, again, I think Tulane, based off of their, competitiveness in the game against Ole Miss in week number 2, and the committee put them ahead of Air Force, I think that's going to be enough to get them in the New Year's Six Bowl game for the second straight year in a row. So I got Washington and Tulane here in the Fiesta Bowl. And then moving on to the Peach Bowl, I got Texas and Penn State. Texas, they do have a tough stretch coming up for the rest of the year. I mean, if you look at it, they got Kansas State coming up this weekend. They still got some other tough games on the schedule where they could slip up somewhere. Remember, no Quinn Ewers probably for a few weeks. I mean, it's really more than likely he could be out for the rest of the year, but I don't think he is out for the rest of the year. Once, Texas gets him back, I think Texas could become a very dangerous team. But do they make it to the Big 12 championship? That's going to be the obvious question. I mean, obviously with that win over Alabama, obviously with that win over Kansas, that's a good enough of a resume to get into the playoff. But again, I think, Texas and Oklahoma are going to slip up somewhere probably in the, last 4 weeks because this is the month of November now, and usually this is where upsets start to happen. Texas, though, I feel very confident that they can make it to a New Year's Six Bowl. I mean, I did, put them out of the playoff rankings after they lost to Oklahoma, and I did put Oklahoma in there, but then Oklahoma started to kind of, play inconsistently in the last couple weeks, and then I had to make a change there and put Ohio State there. But Penn State, on the other hand, I feel very confident that this team can, maybe beat Michigan. They do get them next weekend. That would be a big boost on their resume. And, it just really comes down, maybe Michigan has to beat Ohio State. I mean, I don't know how the Big Ten East standings are going to work if all these, let's say they are all 11-1. I mean, who's going to go to the Big Ten championship? I mean, that's going to be the obvious question, but I feel like Michigan's going to win the game, but, I think Penn State's going to be obviously competing in that game. And again, I did pick Penn State to beat Michigan in the regular season, but based off of Penn State's performance this past weekend against Indiana, it just did not look really good. So I don't feel very confident picking Penn State in that game, but I think it will be a tough challenge for Michigan. But again, this is my Peach Bowl projection here. I like to see this matchup, though. Texas versus Penn State. It would be a really good defensive battle. But let's go to my last New Year's Six Bowl game down, and that is the Orange Bowl. And I do feel very confident that this matchup is going to happen. It's Alabama versus Louisville. Obviously, both of these teams, I got them losing their conference championship games. Whatever happens to Alabama, tomorrow night, if they do lose to LSU, I mean, they're not going to end up in a New Year's Six Bowl. They might end up, not even in a New Year's Six Bowl. Like, maybe LSU probably replaces Alabama. Let's say if LSU beats Alabama tomorrow night, I will put LSU here next weekend, but if Alabama wins, they definitely, stay here in the Orange Bowl. But Alabama has home field advantage going into that game. I feel very confident that they're going to win the game, honestly. I mean, I did pick Alabama, to beat, LSU over the week and everything. So I do got them winning in a big-time shootout in that one, so it will be an interesting game there tomorrow night. If Alabama plays their best game, obviously I still put them here in the Orange Bowl. I do have them losing a conference championship, though, to Georgia. I did pick Georgia to beat Alabama in the preseason. I still feel very confident that it's Alabama versus Georgia in the SEC championship at the end of the year. And then Louisville, on the other hand, this team has been very good this year. Obviously, they have the win over Notre Dame, and they got a win over Duke this past weekend. They absolutely dominated on the defensive side of the football. And then, obviously, Louisville, they are second place right now in the ACC. It's looking like Florida State versus Louisville in the ACC championship. And if Louisville wins that game, that pretty much ruins Florida State's playoff hopes. But I do feel very confident that Florida State's going to win the game as of right now. And I think that would put Louisville in a New Year's Six Bowl because they'll be that second-best ACC team. I don't really see North Carolina getting in there just based off of what's happened to them in the last couple weeks. Miami could probably jump in there. Depends on what happens if Louisville slips up here somewhere in the month of November. But their schedule really sets up nicely to have a really good rest of the way. They also got to play Miami on the schedule on the road. Very tough place to play. We'll see what happens in that one. But I do feel very confident that this matchup will happen. Alabama versus Louisville. This is a matchup I would love to see. Obviously, Alabama is the more talented team, the more better team in this one. But this would be the first time that Alabama and Louisville meet in a matchup since the 2018 opener. And that's where Tua Tagovailoa was, in that year. Alabama just dominated Louisville from that stretch. And that was the final year of the Bobby Petrino era. But again, I do feel like this is going to be a matchup to, fun matchup to watch. So I got Alabama and Louisville here in the Orange Bowl. And those are my New Year's Six Bowl projections for week number 10 of the 2023 college football season. Let me guys know what you think about these New Year's Six Bowl games. Give me your New Year's Six Bowl games down in the comments below. Thank you for watching this video, and stay tuned here for more sports content videos on my Lucas Ross Sports channel.